Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Thirsty Thursday live stream. I hope everyone is having an awesome day and safe and ready for the long weekend. Hopefully, you have a long weekend. I don't know. But I have an awesome guest this week. We want to talk about a lot of interesting things that we don't really talk about as hackers or as security professionals, talking to the normal Joe Blow on the internet or just in your family. So, we're going to bring her in. Her name is Bailey, and we're going to have her introduce herself and let's learn something about her. What's up, Bailey? How's it
Hey,
going?
good, good. Yeah, I wanted to come on here and I typically do a bunch of hacker stuff, but I turned to my husband and was like, "Hey, I want to do something different. What would you be interested in?" And he's
Mhm.
like, "Not hacker stuff," because he's in IT, and I've got a cat right here that wants to bother me. Tis the life of living, working from home. But so I was like, "Hey, let's do something that's like, not so technical," because I
Mhm.
think that we talked about it on the pre-show, but like I think that there is a lot of stuff in the market right now that's geared towards people trying to get into cyber and people that are already in cyber. But what about
Mhm.
people that like have nothing to do with cyber and don't want anything to do with cyber? And
Yeah.
I actually started my career. I was a psychology major in school. So I did not want anything to do with IT or cybersecurity. It was just not interesting to me.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to be either some sort of military intelligence because I was going into the military, or I wanted to be, a doctor because what else do you do with a psychology major when you're like you have to go get an MD or something? And so the long story short, the stars aligned. I got a security plus voucher through the military, and then the rest is history. I was like, man, this shit's pretty cool,
Uh-huh.
and I really enjoy this. So how do I pivot it? How do I move into that? I didn't really have like a pivot point because I hadn't really done anything with my career. I had gotten a degree. So I'm really passionate about telling people that when they're trying to pivot into cybersecurity, what are you good at? What have you done? And
Mhm.
usually, a lot of like those skills transfer from financial sector, healthcare. Like even if you aren't in IT or cyber, it's like cyber is still relevant to those jobs. And even if you never want to be in security, like they're still
Mhm.
relevant. So I was like, let's get on here and talk about cyber for people that want nothing to do with cyber because it still affects you.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. And I thought that was an awesome topic. So cheers for that. I think, having some understanding of cybersecurity when you're not in cyber, like we were saying prior, family members and stuff like that, they get a text message saying your UPS, click here to track your UPS. And everyone's like ordering something off Amazon at least every week. So it's hard to keep track of every single thing. It's like, oh shit, like let me just click on this. And then obviously it can be, a remote access to your phone or a rat tool or remote access Trojan or something like that into your device or whatever it is. So it's like, okay, how can we convey this to, like I said, the normal Joe Blow that's not really a
Mhm.
techie? And how can they like defend against themselves? Like, say, for example, you said your husband or prior, like, your husband's in IT, so he's probably a little more, savvy than your normal Joe Blow. But how do you think what they should do? Like, what should they look out for?
Yeah, so to be fair, my husband's in IT only not by choice, by force, by volunteering for the military. And they said, "Hey, you're going to be IT," and he's like, "Okay, sure, pay me a paycheck." So
Yeah.
he does a lot of administrative stuff, and
Mhm.
he gets a lot of like those outside of his job. Really, I mean, he gets the USPS sent you a text message that says your package is lost at the warehouse, and
Mhm.
like I had to sit down and explain to my dad called me recently and was like, "Hey, he's in education, by the way." So he's like, "Hey, I'm trying to talk my team through phishing, and we just cannot wrap our heads around how someone can spoof a phishing email. Like, how does someone do that?" And what people don't understand is that Microsoft at gmail.com is not a Microsoft email. they
Mhm.
don't they don't understand that because it's not something that until they lose some money in their bank account or it becomes something that affects them, then they start to get smart on it. So when it comes to like not knowing what is out there, just basic education and, training to small businesses, for example, you've got, a guy down the road, for example, that has a multi-million-dollar plumbing business. And this is like very blue collar work. This is a small community, small business, never wanted anything to do with like having a big website or anything. Like their website's probably hosted on like GeoCities or something still, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how does that, I mean, that's an incredibly lucrative field, and his company might be worth millions of dollars. And how do you protect yourself against that? And
Mm-hmm.
first thing is obviously, trying to guard your email and your text messages. I mean, don't click links. And I've done it myself. Like I've woken up in the middle of the night and had like a, hey, your Gmail something, like click this link to verify. And I was like 3 in the morning and I was like, oh shit, like of course I need to fix that. And I clicked it. And then I realized it immediately because I goofed up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go change my passwords. And so I was like in the middle of the night trying to do this, but only because I recognized it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people wouldn't recognize it until they had money taken out of their accounts, or they had like some really weird stuff sent to their friends from their email account that they had never even seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's just getting basic education to people that aren't going to, necessarily use this as a defensive or an offensive thing, and use it more as like, it's like street smarts almost at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it might be different whenever kids that are in, middle school and high school get to be certain ages where they're, running these small businesses. But right now we're in this really weird, like generational gap of like people that own and are in charge of like companies are
Mm-hmm.
still like totally cyber stupid.
Yeah. And that is that is super, super true. So yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I made a few videos. My aunt actually got, like the whole Amazon trick. And she was asking me the same exact thing. Like they would always text or call me real quick and say, "Oh, Pat, like I got this. Is this real?" And then one day, my aunt actually clicked on it and signed up. And she's like, "My username and password's not working." And pretty much they got phished.
Yeah.
and and then literally, I made a video on like the Amazon just because of what she had. And I remember when she watched it, she goes, "Holy shit! Like, how is that even possible?" Like you said, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
And there's so many things that are possible that I don't even know, right? There's so many things like, and that's why I just say, I don't know. This is my perspective. Maybe I'm just a little weird, but like, I'm not scared of anything really. Cause it's like, if they want you there, if you're a target, they're going to get you no matter what.
Mhm.
How many, cause the human element is the absolute dumbest, right? So like we can have all the phishing, SPF, DMARC, DCAM files, all this stuff like that's, but all it's going to take is that one person to click on a link, or me calling, or doing some recon on someone, and just, willy nilly calling you, and have spoof card on my phone, and I can have, you know what I mean? So it's super, super easy just to, have that way in. Yeah, you can have MFA, you can have all that, but if you're annoying, and this is, if you're annoying about it, someone's going to hit accept or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's, so I guess like the question is for you that we can, answer for the people. How do we stay safe?
Yeah, that is a loaded question. Like seriously a loaded question. And I mean, I've thought about this because I've thought, how do, I like doing education. So a lot of what
Mm-hmm.
I do on YouTube and on LinkedIn is sharing, more for the offensive security side, but I think showing people that they can be hacked very easily, how people do it. Like just showing, and my YouTube videos are maybe 2 or 3 minutes long, and I say, hey, this is how you use Burp Suite to deface someone's website, right? Or like get login credentials through some sort of SQL database.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is very easy, and sure, those take like cutscenes, and it's editing, of course, but it's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
Most people with the basic understanding of like how to utilize some of the tools on Kali Linux could probably do that pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I've thought of that question, like, how do we get that information to small businesses
Hmm.
and maybe schools, and I really think it's just having these conversations right here, and sharing them with the appropriate audiences. A girlfriend of mine, Jen Funk, we've talked about going to schools and talking to teenagers about how to protect their data online. TikTok's like a huge thing,
Hmm.
and so like showing students how people use OSINT and can use
Hmm.
that against them. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, going to a small business and saying, this is like a really bite sized, human digestible, non super technical, walkthrough of like how someone can do a phishing email and basically take your information and look,
Hmm.
all of your, we'll put it in a database. Here's all of the information that you just shared with that person. And it's not just phishing, it's reusing passwords. It's using crappy passwords. I mean, I just did a video the other day on like if you use a crappy password on WPA2, like Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
WPA2 still sucks because you use password 123. Like it's so easy. And so I've
Hmm.
had a lot of conversations with people about how do we I don't know, how do we get to that point? Because doing it from an offensive security side, like showing someone how to hack something is like way too overwhelming
Hmm.
for, the general population. And something that I have heard several times from just like brains that I've picked is that honestly, there are a lot of people that don't want to know the truth. They
Hmm.
don't want to, especially when it comes to OSINT as well, and how it affects children and,
Hmm.
gathering that information on like the youth. But like people
Yeah.
don't want to know the truth, which is very scary to me because that is a human aspect that you just cannot fix.
Hmm.
And so like that piece in and of itself, we can provide trainings and tailor them certain ways to meet a certain audience, but at the end of the day there's everybody's a critic.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to know how easy it is to break into your bank account and steal your information just by social engineering you.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's so true. And there's there's so many so many little social engineering projects that I worked on, and yeah, just setting up, like we talked about before, like just setting up a little web page, going through Nginx, super simple,
Mhm.
and just like, oh, have some dynamic DNS or DDNS name saying, winntheLottery.com, you know what I mean? Whatever. And it's like, oh, you can get picked in the lottery and this is only the first 100, blah, 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 whatever. Sign in here with your work credentials and we can harvest your credentials. But it's it's really really scary, and having that information out there and having that like education is super super key, right? Because
Mhm.
just like you said, the OSINT stuff, and especially like I want to transition a little bit because you have little ones, I have a daughter as well, and it's like having going on like these roadblocks and doing like these weird, playing these games. And I don't know if you know Ryan Montgomery O'Day.
Mhm. Yep.
So obviously he does a lot of stuff, and so like with him, like showcasing this stuff with, what you call it, like these kids, and it's like I remember talking to him. I'm like, yo, dude, like it's
Yeah.
it's it's some scary stuff, but it's how do you think? Obviously, he puts his little educational nuggets out there, that his little small clips, and stay safe, blah blah blah. But how can we? Because as we're young parents. I don't know how old you are, but like
Mhm.
we're young parents. But like the generation that had kids later on in life, that's not very tech savvy. That their kids are just locked in a room playing on their computer. God only knows what kind of sites they're going on, what kind of chat rooms they're going into, etc. In my opinion, the way you guys can secure that is by monitoring. Obviously, you have to have like a firewall, you have to understand some of that techie stuff,
Mhm.
but you can hire someone to have those parental controls on your network. I think that's super key. I have it all over. I know every single thing about every single thing, but not not your normal Joe, your Joe Blow. So how can someone, I touched on it, but like how can someone like, willy nilly, Joe Blow, secure their children inside their home, since they're not cybersecurity folks like us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first the first piece is talking to your kids if they're of an age that you can, have a reasonable conversation with them. Mine are like 3 and
Hmm.
1. Like they don't listen to anything I say. They don't want anything to do with me unless it's like they've got a boo-boo or something.
Yeah.
So the education piece is huge because I mean, if you've got teenagers, you can have a conversation with them and hopefully a lot of parents have good relationships with their kids that they can have those conversations. But outside of that, because that's like, that could vary across, families. um I actually got my hands on a firewall of purple like last year,
Yep.
which is just like the easiest thing I think I've ever used. You just plug it into your Wi-Fi router and
Yep.
then you download the app, and it will by default show you all of the things like someone's accessing porn, someone's
Yep.
accessing, playing games, someone's on you watching YouTube, and it'll
Hmm.
show you like what you can assign. If you know half of how devices operate, you can go into your phone, for example, and look up your IP address,
Hmm.
and say, hey, my phone is this IP address, and then assign it to your firewall as Bailey's phone.
Hmm.
And then it will alert you. It says like, Bailey's phone is playing games at 3 in the morning. Okay,
Hmm.
well, Bailey should probably be asleep at 3 in the morning. So that's
Yeah.
probably not a good idea. And it also is not a super invasive thing where you're having to like put it on because you want to have a level of respect for your children where
Absolutely.
you're not being so invasive that they feel like they can't trust you. Because if you
Hmm.
start becoming, a very in their face parent,
Hmm.
then they're not going to tell you when things happen. And I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of that happen, like with the Yahoo boys and
Hmm.
like all of the crazy stuff that's the sextortion stuff that's going on with those kids.
Hmm.
To give a very quick summary, if anybody hasn't heard, it's a group out of Nigeria that is basically trapping young boys, yeah, teenage boys into, they'll go through and find information about all of their followers and their friends on Instagram, go and friend them on Instagram, catfish and pose as, young girls or other young men, and start coercing them into sending them, nude photos. And then they'll take the nude photos and say, hey, now we have your photos. This is who we really are. And this is, you owe us this amount of money or we're going to share it with your whole friends list. And it makes, as I cannot imagine how that would feel as a teenager to be under that pressure. And if you don't already have, a relationship with your parents, and
Hmm.
that's embarrassing too. I mean, like, even if you do have a relationship with your parents, like, who wants to go tell their parents, like, hey, I sent some nude pictures to someone I didn't know.
Hmm.
And these children are killing themselves,
Hmm.
because of this, and it's terrible. It's a terrible situation. And so you want to establish a relationship with your kids that, promotes the most communication back and forth. So a firewall is a great way to say, hey, you were up at 3 in the morning playing Minecraft. What was that about? And then
Yeah.
you can have the conversation, and it hopefully promotes that relationship and that communication as well. But then if they're on something like, that they definitely shouldn't be on, they should not be on adult sites and things like that if they're
Hmm.
12. Like, that's just like, you need to just shut it down. But
Yeah.
that is like a plug and play security thing that I think the very basic, of us, even outside of security and IT, could implement.
So this purple, is it sort of like a little device? Is it like a
Yeah,
two ports, right? It's
it's
like.
it's almost like it's like the size of a Raspberry Pi, so like a wallet, basically. It's
Hmm.
small, and it's
Hmm.
got, yeah, I think it's got 2 or 3 ports. It's got a, um oh, I can't remember. It's been in my closet like collecting dust because I've been using it, so I haven't had to like pull it
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
and look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's small, and then you just plug in your router on one side, and then it goes through and you connect that to your router, and then you route your internet, to wherever you need to go, and it just monitors the traffic of basically everything that's on your internal Wi-Fi.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. So it's actually like a. So I want to say understand the network layer of this. So you have your ISP, you have your circuit, whatever Comcast, whatever Xfinity. Then you plug that into your actual router. Then then your router routes traffic through your purple.
I think it is. So they call it a next generation firewall.
Okay.
And those are like specific devices.
Hmm.
And if I'm remembering correctly, like I don't want to misspeak because I'd have to go and like look at it in my
No, no, no.
closet, but
That's
it's
all
like
good.
you have your router from AT&T, for example,
Hmm.
and then you have your firewall, and you connect those two. Now I don't know if the internet goes through the firewall and then goes out to your, because you, assuming you're using Wi-Fi, right? We do
Hmm.
have the router for Wi-Fi, but we also
Okay,
have
okay, okay. Gotcha.
we have it plugged in because my husband is a big computer gamer, and so we have it hardwired too so he
Yep.
can get, the highest gigs per second. So on his, so we do have another connection that's going out that is a hardwire network. I don't
Okay.
think the firewall has anything to do with that. It just sits on the router and monitors every like Wi-Fi connection going out, and
Gotcha.
it'll monitor my husband's traffic too. He's not doing anything. He is up playing video games at 3 a.m, but but I'm not worried about him doing anything nefarious. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
monitor
awesome.
that one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because I have I have my modem that's from Comcast, and I plug into Unify firewall, and then my firewall goes to a different access point, and then I have that little white little box, a Sting box, which is
Mhm.
a which is like a honeypot IDS. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like I have some stuff routing through my have multiple networks, so like I have certain things going through certain routes and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like I know this topic is about like cybersecurity for non-cybersecurity folks, but like for those that are wanting to get into cyber, we'll touch that for a second just to for your audience as well. Like where would you start? Like everyone says the traditional try hack me, hack the box, home labs.
Mhm.
Like I guess we heard a little bit about your track, like the military. You accidentally got into it because you wanted to study psychology, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, if I'm like working at Giuseppe's fucking pizza parlor, like, how do I start? Like, where do I go from there?
Yeah, I absolutely hate, and no shade to anybody that does say this, but I hate when people say build a home lab. Like, oh my gosh. I don't know why. I think it's cuz it's said so many times, and
Hmm.
people are like, how the fuck do I build a home lab? Like, what do you mean? Like, okay, I build a home lab. Do I have to go get like 6 routers and like,
Hmm.
5 desks? Like, cuz people are like build a home lab, but then they don't tell you how to do it. And some people
Yeah.
do, but more likely than not, people are just like, oh, just build a home lab. Just, just do that. Like, fuck am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah.
And especially when you're blue team, because if you're at all interested in doing like defensive security operations, it
Yep.
is the biggest problem I see with home lab builds. There's a lot of data that has to go into that. If you're
Hmm.
talking about, an elastic instance, for example,
Hmm.
you have a seam sitting on your home lab and you're wanting to like threat hunt or, like practice doing some like defensive stuff. You've got
Hmm.
to have you've got to go and get someone's data off the internet, honestly, to be able to practice that, because I hope to God that you don't have malicious like actors on your network internally, that you're not like pulling in stuff.
Yep.
So that one's like really, really difficult to I hate that one. So anyway, yeah, and especially for pen testers, like that could be good. I've had to build things for my own like practice, like hacking Wi-Fi. I cannot go hack my neighbor's Wi-Fi to go
Yep.
practice hacking WPA2. Like, and you got to be very, very careful, because if you start, messing with your AT&T stuff, they're going to get really pissed off and you're going to have a legal situation on your hands. So everything
Absolutely.
that I do has to be very segmented, but I understand the technical requirements that comes with that. That takes a little bit more advanced, like technical background. So to tell a
Hmm.
beginner go build a home lab is just like, I don't like it. But try Hack Me is a great one. I love Hack the Box because their walkthroughs are so much better. They give you modules that you can learn from. It is very beginner friendly. So for the pen testing stuff, I definitely recommend Hack the Box. You can just dive right in. You could come home tomorrow and say like, yeah, that's something that I want to do, and sign up and do that.
Yep.
But there's other facets of cybersecurity too that are like GRC or like
Hmm.
IAM. Like there's a lot of other non-technical but still need to understand technical. And for that, I'd say take a boot camp, take a community course, go sign up for a course at a college, because some colleges do offer you to take like, an intro to security course, and more
Hmm.
likely than not, those are going to be, smaller campuses. But just try to get your feet wet in the learning, and people learn different ways. Some people like to learn on their own and they like to, read a book. I like to read a book and then I like to go take the test on it. Some people like to, I got to be in a classroom. Someone needs to hold my hand. I need an accountability partner. I need a professor walking me through this. Pick out what you like, and also pick out some stuff that you already have familiarity with. So you use the pizza place example for all intents and purposes. Maybe we assume that the person that's interested in doing cybersecurity here has a little bit of background in accounting because they were a cashier, so they know how to
Hmm.
handle money. And maybe they took some money from an online app, ordering that way. Like they've got a little bit of experience in there. So pushing through that information that you already have and you're already comfortable with, that could be super basic, but just moving into, hey, how do I secure this finance part of what I'm doing? Because
Hmm.
not everything has to be cyber. It could be physical security. I mean,
Hmm.
like those fundamentals are super important. Hey, how do I make sure that my server room at my, plumbing company, if you will, doesn't look like garbage, and that there's like wires being chewed through by rats? Like, just like that could be physical. That could be, maybe you want to try with A plus because you like the hardware more, and then, Net Plus or something like that. Like, there are so many ways to do it. I think it is very specific to the where you're coming from and where you think you might want to go. And it doesn't have to be like where you want to go in 10 years. Where do you
Exactly.
want to go this month?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's so true. Like dabble in as much as you can, because it's like my friend Jacob, right? He got his PMPT. He was doing pen testing. That's what he thought he wanted to do. Now he's working for Dark Wolf doing reverse engineering and malware, whatever he's doing over there now, and he loves that. Like he didn't know he loved it until he started it, and it's like, oh shit, like this is something that's super super cool. Now he's not doing pen testing because he gravitated towards something else. So it's like dabble in as much as you can, and with Hack the Box and Try Hack Me and all these other platforms, it's super cool because you know now, especially with Hack the Box, like if you asked me that maybe 2 years ago, I wouldn't recommend Hack the Box right away because they just give you an IP address to say fucking you're on your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little, now they're competing with Try Hack Me, so it's like now they have to make it a little more user friendly. I remember when I was doing the OSCP, I had to hack my way into Hack the Box even just to get an account, you know? So it was like there was no signing up and all that stuff. So it's definitely cool to see different perspectives. Excuse me, especially like when you say like the whole home lab, like especially for a beginner, and I never thought of that, right? Because I'm one of those idiots that like, oh, get a home lab. So it's like it's so true because it's like when you don't know where to start, like my thought process behind a home lab is like if you do Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, that infrastructure already built, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like when you do a home, quote unquote, the home lab I'm thinking about now, blue teaming home labs are really hard. Like you said, you conveyed that
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
But like for the offensive stuff, I always say it's super important because not only you're learning how to hack, but you're learning how to set up networks. You're learning what NAT is, what is a bridge connection, what is network connectivity. How you allowing ICMP requests to go through the firewall into whatever Windows firewall, or you know my normal home lab is like a pfSense or an OpenSense within VMware Workstation or VirtualBox or whatever, and having that network traverse through an actual firewall. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you can see it, and then we can do logs, and you can have VPN servers, so you can hack like a VPN server, just like it's all private IP, private IP address spaces, but the concept is still the same.
Yeah.
So that's always like my like thought process behind it. It's like, okay, like you're understanding how to build it from scratch, but like you made a good point. It's like if you're, fucking Giuseppe from Giuseppe's Pizza, you're gonna start tomorrow and I say go build a home lab, you're like, what the how the hell? Like you said, do I need 10 computers? Like, do I need 100 routers? Like, it's a good point. And I guess for the home labs, I think maybe you should have some understanding of the computing prior and some networking and stuff like that, because you could go to a home lab. Like I had people ask me like, oh, like I don't understand what you did on this home lab, and I'm like, us as techies, we're like, fuck, what are you talking about? You retarded?
Mhm.
Like you just go there and just like do it, you know? So
Yeah. Yep. No, I totally get your point. I think it's different from my perspective because from coming in from a psychology major and having like no intent to do IT or security whatsoever, I got the opportunity to do my security plus and I just went like I just dove in and I didn't study anything that was like net plus or and I definitely didn't do A plus is kind of obsolete at this point if you're not actually doing like it's not a fundamental unless you're actually doing the hardware build. And I have built my own computer. It's my husband's gaming computer. I used to use it for hacking and now I gifted it to him because I got a better computer. But I didn't go through the traditional like okay, let's start with the networking fundamentals. I was in the right place at the right time to just go into security, and I just said,
mhm,
"Fuck it, like, let's just do it. This is what I'm gonna put my mind to it and do it." And then I kind of, like, picked up the pieces on the back end. Like, once I got my Security Plus, it was like, I got my voucher. I had a month of studying before I had to take it because it was on a certain day. And
mhm,
so I bought a book, like some sort of like, study book. I bought a book and I read through it and then I read through it again. And then I took notes and I highlighted everything. I was just all in on Security Plus. And so I went and took it and I passed it. And I was like, okay, well, if I can get that in a month, like I can make up the stuff on the back end. And so I did have to go back and kind of, I wouldn't say that I had to learn stuff because I think as I was studying for my Security Plus, there were things that didn't really make sense to me that I was like, okay, I don't know what this port means. Like, how am I ever going to remember that port 53 is DNS when it's like it's always going to be that?
yeah,
How am I going to remember all of these ports? And so it's just one of those things. It's like I never did the what you would consider a traditional like start with the networking fundamentals and then
mhm,
go to security and then go, and for what it's worth, I mean, this is not a to my own horn or anything, but like I
mhm,
got my CISP at 5 years and I was able to like a lot of things that like are not traditionally available to a 26-year-old female at the time just coming in out of a psychology degree. Like I did those things.
mhm,
And so my perspective is different as well. And that goes back to everybody learns different, everybody receives information differently. I was and am the kind of person that can jump right in and say, "Yep, I'm doing this and we're just going to figure it out along the way." That's not everybody. And so for some people like really grinding out into those network fundamentals and building your home lab does make sense. I just wish we as a community did a better job. Maybe someone should write a book like this is how you create your home lab and publish that. And then everybody knows like this is the standard home lab and I can build off of this. And so
mhm,
because people say do this and then they don't give anybody any tools to do that. I mean, and that goes back to the whole like premise of this whole conversation about like cybersecurity for non-cybersecurity people. Like we say don't click phishing links and then we're like what's a phishing link? Like, what does that look like? Like, I don't know what a phishing email is. How does someone do that? Like,
mhm,
so we say all of these great ideas and great things, but then we give no context whatsoever because we're like, oh, well, I'm smart. Like, I knew what it was. Like, you figure it out.
mhm. No, that's so true. And going back to that topic, what the topic's about, like even physical stuff, right? Like even physical security, like everyone's working normally remotely now, but it's like if someone has to go into an office and doing the whole tailgating and even doing like physical engagements, you'll be surprised like how many, especially if you're going into a town or whatever, like that there's, I guess I want to say it, nicer people. If you go to New York and you have your fucking door shut on you, right? But like if you may be up by you or like maybe somewhere in the Midwest that the people are a little nicer, like they'll probably hold a door open for you. They're like, oh, I'll hold the elevator too, and just hold a box that has nothing in it, and just work your way in. And
Mhm.
that's where like you have to also be careful, because I did one of those, and I was able to rumble through like file cabinets, rumble through some stuff and get a lot of confidential data, taking pictures of it for findings. And I also like, for that person, for that client, creating a little a little backdoor with MSF Venom, and just like make it the same executable as what they use there, and name it the same, and then upload it on like HTTP server, Apache running on my Kali machine inside the organization, and host it up, and people are downloading it, and I'm popping shells left and right. So
Mhm.
going back to like that security awareness training, like if you guys are out there and you guys have that at work, please follow that, because they're not doing that to fucking bust your balls. They're doing it because there's attackers out there that that's gonna ruin your whole fucking day, and don't be a victim of that.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So I saw a comment that said that there are a lot of books on building home labs. I have not seen any of them. I would have to do a Google search to do them. So is why we as and I've seen a lot of talk about like cybersecurity influencers lately, because people are all pissed off on LinkedIn because there are a lot of people that are promoting garbage out there.
Hmm.
It is 100% too. There are a lot of people that are putting out good content, but there are a lot of people that have very big platforms that are using it to promote crap or to promote their own stuff. If it were me, and maybe I should, now that I see that there's some products out there, we need to be sharing those products if they're already available, instead of bashing people over the head and saying build a home lab and then not saying what books are out there.
Hmm.
Trying to share that content using platforms that we have to be able to provide help and not garbage, and not having people sign up for your $600,000 get a 20-figure job this month with cybersecurity. Like, just give people, and that's what I try to do. And I had never looked for home lab books because I didn't want to build one. I was like,
Yeah.
no, like I absolutely not, will not do that. So people that do say like, hey, build a home lab, provide products. And I should do that with, things that I say, hey, you know, do this or don't do this. And like, here's
Hmm.
the facts or here's the resources to help you. I think that would benefit the community more, in my opinion, instead of us saying like, hey, do this, and then we're like, go find it on your own, you fuckers.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, I try to do that, right? Like if I'm saying, like for example, I did a, build it. I built, Active Directory hacking lab at HackSpaceCon at a few conferences for like a workshop, and then I'm like, okay, like, let me just do this on my YouTube channel, make a few videos from what I
Mhm.
did in these workshops, and actually walk through, because obviously in a workshop you have 2 hours. It's really quick,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, now I can break down each step into like nuggets or modules or whatever you want to call it, and like, okay, this is how you do it. This is so I think that's super super important to break that down, because I remember watching videos when I was studying for I don't know what's the deal. I forgot what I was studying for, learning Bloodhound, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, like everyone has videos on Bloodhound, right? Even if you're walking through like forest on Hack the Box, right? You need Bloodhound because but how the fuck do you get Bloodhound? What is Bloodhound? Like, how do I actually
How
get
do you
it?
even download it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how do I start my Nord 4J, whatever the fuck the thing is? I don't remember
Yeah,
the bit.
Neo4j.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
not even, I was told that's not even like the recent one that they're teaching, like in
yeah,
like classes. It was like, when the fuck did they change it?
yeah. So now it's like Bloodhound community with like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah, like in Docker and stuff like that. But it's like, how does that's where I think like when you going back to what you were saying about like the influencers or whatever, I don't know, video makers, whatever the fuck we are, like when you actually, I guess there's a double view on this, right? Because it's like if I'm putting something out, the viewer, I'm expecting them to at least know how to get there. I'm not going to
Mhm.
throw names out there, but there's a lot of people that I would watch. I'm like, how did they get there? And that's where I thought like there was a gap. And that's when I like, even when I did like a couple of my like my Windows Server 2022 course or whatever, I wasn't saying like, okay, now we have a Windows Server up. Once you have that, come back. And then we can install ADDS and DNS and all, et cetera. But it's like, no, you have to even walk people through how to go get an eval copy of the ISO of Windows Server 2022. And then like, it's like, you know, getting that, that your feet wet prior to even starting the configs. So that's interesting that you said that, because that's why I never wanted to make videos. You know, like I made videos on accident, and I was studying for CCIE security and some Palo Alto certs about 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, made some videos with some friends, and I was sharing them on Google Drive, and one friend was like, oh, put this on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know how to fucking use YouTube. So I was like, all right, I'll give this a go. But like, what is your take now? Like, because I've seen some of your videos, like I like how like they're short, sweet, and right to the point. I wish I can be more like you, because I fucking talk too much and I go on cloud nine. So like you and even Jennifer, right? Jennifer Funk. I would like to get her, or maybe I'll talk to her. But like even her, she has like less than 8 minutes on her videos. It's like, how the fuck do you guys do it?
Yep.
Like, so how do you do it? Like, I need a tip. Like, how do you actually stay in that time frame?
Yeah. So, and Jennifer and I, you know, we've put a ton of time back and forth talking about like, well, this doesn't work, or this doesn't seem right, or this, you know. And so we've like gone back and forth and had these discussions, and it seems like I've kind of refined what I like to do and how I do it, and she hers, and it seems to be working. And so what I'll say is I sit down and I pick out a topic that I think is either trending because something's going on, or you know, someone asked for web app security the other day. They're like, can you do web app security? And I was like, yeah, that's a loaded video. Let me just focus on, you know, this tool, this, you know, Burp Suite. Let me just do that. And I sit down and I write out a script, and it's like, you know, I can eyeball it and say, okay, that if I record that looks to be about like 3 to 5 minutes of recording, like once I cut it up. And it will take me like, you know, 20 minutes to do the recording, but then I've got to sit down and I've got to, you know, for Burp Suite, for example, I had to make sure that I downloaded like the damn vulnerable web server. And you know, make sure Burp Suite's up on my Kali. And so doing the demo part is like the longest piece of like labor time for me. But honestly, just deciding based on what I have eyeballed previously as this is going to be a 3 to 5 minute video, writing a script on that. And that's why sometimes it looks like, you know, like I'm definitely like scripted on my videos, because I don't want to ramble. I will ramble on my live streams. That's where the good shit happens. But I want to get down to the point. Even if I put in like this last web app video, I was joking around and I was like, this would be too funny. And then I did it on video. I was like, well, that's too stupid. I cannot cut that out. Like, people have to be entertained too. So it was all like Western themed and stuff, which was just, I showed my husband, he's like, who are you? And I was like, you know, it's for the views, you know, keep people coming back. But yeah, just making sure, you know, sticking to like a tool. There's so much in-depth stuff that I could get into Burp Suite. I could teach you cross-site scripting. I could teach you, you know, like all sorts of like different intruder tools that are on that utility, but really just like, let me give you the basic, like, here is this tool. This is what you can do with it. If you want a more in-depth detail, then I can make another video, or you can check out the live stream and, you know, see. And I like doing the live stream too, because it helps me like show that there's a thought process too. And I end up rambling a long time on those, so I could probably hack those boxes a little quicker if I just shut the fuck up. But I, you know, it's good because I'm like talking to myself out loud. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I just like, this CVE doesn't make sense and stuff. And so that's good for that. But really to get down to the nitty gritty of just show me what fucking Burp Suite is. And I had that same experience when I was learning a lot of my stuff too. On YouTube, it was like, hey, I was surprised that someone asked me how to set up, what was it? Set up a virtual machine on a Mac. I use a Mac Studio for my main computer, and I could not get a Windows virtual machine on my computer because I already had VMware. I was
Yeah.
not going to go and get Parallels or whatever. Like I was just going to I was just going to stick it out because like I'm not a sissy bitch. Like I'm going to figure
Yeah.
this out and
Hmm.
use VMware. And I was
Yeah.
like surprised that nobody had any information on how to do this because everybody was using Parallels. And I was like, well, what if I'm not using Parallels? Like, someone tell me how. And so someone asked, like, hey, how did you do that? And I was like, well, here's a quick infograph. These are the steps that I did, and here's the commands. Like, and it was that easy. And then I
Yeah.
shared with the collective audience, and everybody was like, yay,
Yeah.
like,
That's super sick. Yeah, and that's the, like the way to do it. Like that's what I do. Like I just go to the audience or whatever in my Discord or just wherever and just like, oh, like what would you guys like to see? Because now, so I wanted to, before we get into that, like what made you decide to make a channel and put out videos, and how long have you been doing it now?
yeah, not too long. And I started out doing Dino Nuggets around November of last year. And the premise of Dino Nuggets was supposed to be just like, I didn't see what I did see was a lot of like formal webinars and formal, like, hey, this is how you get in to cyber and this is what you do and buy my course. And, I was like, I don't really see a lot of people just sitting down and just like having a conversation and just like, hey, what do you need to know this week? Like, what are you interested in? Like, what is your question this week that's just like itching on your mind?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did one Dino Nuggets live stream on LinkedIn. Dino Nuggets was, my whole brand is the security rec, so everything has to be dinosaur themed. And
Yeah.
much to my son's like excitement, he loves it. Um, so I was like, Dino Nuggets, like if I do it at lunchtime, like that was the time that I had to do this live stream. And if I do it at lunchtime, let's make it lunch themed. I'll get some food and I'll sit down and I'll eat lunch and I'll just talk to people. If people have
Mm-hmm.
questions, it's just a free space to ask questions and, get some interactive feedback. And if
Mm-hmm.
people want to join on the live stream and stuff, like, yay. If not, I'm talking to myself, which is fine. Like, I'll answer the questions on chat and stuff too, because some people just don't want to be on camera, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
So I did one live stream on LinkedIn. And then after that one, I was like, well, I could put this on YouTube as well. And that's where a lot of like videos live. So why don't I
Mm-hmm.
just put it on YouTube too? So I did a couple more after I started a YouTube channel. And then I had some ideas of like, what could I do that's like fun hacker stuff well, let me back up. I had done a couple social media like tooling videos for the
Mm-hmm.
company that I am a teacher for, Applied Technology Academy. I had done some stuff for their website, and I'd really liked doing that. I like walking through and explaining kind of like how to do Nmap and like silly
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to live stream like offset content because I was like, well, people seem to really struggle with like offset, so I want to do that. And I reached out and OffSec was like, hell no, like you absolutely will not put our stuff on YouTube. And I was like, okay, sorry, my bad. I like the worst you could say was no.
Yeah.
And then I kind of let that sit. And then I was like, no, there's still people out there that I think could like enjoy this. And so I dug into like Hack the Box's terms of services and what you can and cannot stream. And I found out that you could do, the retired machines. And I was like, let's just do that. Like, let's just see how it turns out, and
Mm-hmm.
had a good turnout there, and didn't want to stick to our 2 hour long live streams all the time. Since I already kind of had a YouTube channel going, I was like, well, I can do the live streams, but like if I want to get people just like some information and they've got ADHD like me and just like cannot sit and watch a 2 hour video to get to like just get to the bottom of like what this video is about. So
Yeah.
then I wanted to do some tooling videos. And so really started getting serious about it in April and May, and have been trying to put out something at least once a week. So
Yeah. No, and it's like I'm subscribed to your channel and I love your stuff. Even Jennifer's stuff. I found it very, very like useful. You know what I mean? And I like that, like I said, like I'm jealous because I want to be able to have that micro nugget. And the scripts, I tried the script and at least everyone has their own way. I'm not good at that. I'll sound like a robot. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have about 10 more minutes. Obviously, I want to be kind of your time. So, do we have any questions for Bailey or myself? And obviously, I think Dee put your information. So at the securityrex.com, they can find all your information, how to contact you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's the best place to find me. I used to do quite a few cheat sheets. So I had those as like a central repository if you had seen them on LinkedIn before, but they're like lost in the feed. I placed them all there. It's got a link to my YouTube channel. It's very blanket. There's not a lot going on there. It's just like a good repository of anything that I've put out. Like that's where you can find it.
Cool. So are there any questions? I know there was a few. You could start throwing them up, D, if there's any up there. Question for everyone. I'm super busy in the field nowadays and can't find a time for Hack the Box anymore. Do you find time to spend? Huh. I'll let
That's
you.
Yeah, I totally get the question. I totally get where you're at right now too. I I had to really sit down and prioritize the things that were important to me. And if one of those things that you're doing is not conducive to either your success or your family, because family is very important to me. I reiterate, I've got 2 young boys and I want to spend time with my husband as well. Those things take precedent. And so, really, I had to just check off stuff and just say, like, I'm not going to do this right now and I'm not going to stress myself over it. So
Mhm,
just kind of give yourself a little bit of grace that you can't find time for Hack the Box. It's okay. Those skills are not just going to dissipate into thin air. Like
mhm,
if you're studying for a cert, you might be studying for an offensive security cert, or you might be studying for something else in the security realm. But maybe Hack the Box just isn't like the thing right now. Just focus on finishing like the tangible goal that you have, and then you can come back to it. And I get rusty too, and I'm not on an engagement or I'm not like on Hack the Box doing something. I mean, it happens. We all do, but it'll come back naturally. So
yeah, that's definitely true. Like, don't I just say have your cheat sheet, whatever, if you're using Obsidian or OneNote, even Notepad, however you take your notes, because like even the other day, like I forgot a SQL map command that I was trying to run, and I'm like, fuck, I don't remember the syntax. Like, I don't remember
yeah,
them all. I'll just use chat now.
yeah,
Before I used to Google, now I just use Chat GPT and put whatever syntax, and usually
yeah.
90% of the time it's right, and then you just have to switch up some stuff. Any other questions in here? I'm trying to. All right, what is the best way to start YouTube about cybersecurity to get fans really quick? Fuck,
If you figure
not
it
me.
out, let us know. Because I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know either, man. I don't know. I'm still, like I've been doing it almost 5 years, 4.5 years now, and I'm not at 100,000 subscribers yet. I think consistency. Uh,
I was gonna say that same thing.
yeah, I don't think. I don't know. At least for me, this is never going to be my full time job. I just like to give back to the community and fuck around, and shoot the shit like people like Bailey and just make videos, talk shit. Like I seen some comments in there that's probably talking about me. I don't give a fuck. Say it to my face, like so. It's more about just stay consistent, bro. Like that's all it is. Like if you want to go put a video out on whatever you're gonna do, just do it, and don't compare yourself to the next person because you're fucking going bananas. If I compare myself to John Hammond, I'm like, I'm never going to get there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't give I love John, but I'm not going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to be like John, because I'm never going to be fucking John. John's never going to be me, you know?
Yep.
So that's my advice, but take it or
That's a
leave it.
great perspective. Totally agree.
Cool. Any other, we have a few more minutes. I'm trying to look through, probably D's looking at them too. Do you have, do you have advice with me come to first? What? Do you advise me? Oh, with Security Plus at first. So I can give my perspective at first. I started IT almost 20 years ago, And I did do the traditional path. Like I did A plus, Network plus, Security plus, Linux plus, Project plus. I did all the fucking pluses, right? And this was in 2005. So today, like what Bailey was saying prior, like if you touch a computer, you know how to build a computer, you're a nerd. Like you don't probably need the A plus unless you're at a place that they specifically say that they want the A plus, right? But having your Security plus would obviously be beneficial, and having those network fundamentals to even feed on top of that. It all depends on what your goal is, right? Security plus is awesome, but if you want to learn about pen testing, even defensive security, you have to understand a little more than just the Security plus. But I think that's definitely a first step, and I think that's a good one to start with. What is your take on it?
Yeah, and I think it's different coming like and not to say that like I don't know. I'm 29 years old. I'll just like put it out there. Like I am not I have not been in security very long. I think my whole career right now has been 8 years, like little plus some time. And so my like the time that I was in school, like we had computers. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was in middle school, we had computers. I was always touching computers. I'm pretty sure I always tell people this. My first like hacking experience was socially engineering like my friends' Neopets passwords in like the early 2000s. If that doesn't date me, like where I'm at in my career trajectory. So coming in now, it's totally different because
Mm-hmm.
if you're younger, you've had a longer time to like have phones and computers at your disposal. And so you probably have a basic fundamental understanding of a computer or like how a phone works. And that might be presumptive to say, but I would reckon more likely than not, if you're coming into, security now, like post high school, or maybe you're just, kind of out of college, you might already have like a basic understanding of some of the fundamentals. And so you can supplement the things that you don't know. Like nobody's going to, I mean, unless you're like playing with firewalls as a baby, like that's your like, I got a switch when I was a toddler, like you're not going to know that. So understanding that, but you're coming in with more base knowledge. And I think that's just going to continue to evolve as, the generations go on. And, this time next year, I'll be saying something different, or, this
Mm-hmm.
time in 10 years, I mean, I'll be saying something different because there will be
Yeah,
a whole new generation of people in technology. So if you're comfortable with Security Plus and you can digest and understand the content, you should go for it.
absolutely. I agree. And this is something I like to say, and I think Heath Adams put this out there as well. It's like never, like there's not only one path to get into cyber. Uh, you know, for example, my story, I'll make it quick. Like I'm a big sneakerhead. I love sneakers. So like I was selling sneakers on eBay about 15 years ago now. I'm almost 40. So like that tells me how old I am. But like so like 15 years ago, I was selling Jordan, sneakers on eBay. And then, that's when, PayPal connected to it. And I was the idiot that fucking clicked on a link and gave up my credentials. And I got like $800 or $900 stolen from me when I was still an undergrad. So that's where I was like, oh shit, like someone, is there something that I can do and learn about this? Right. So if that never happened, I still would have been a network engineer. Right. So everyone has their path to get into whatever they're going to do. Even the world of IT, like I have a family friend, like I was an electrician right out of high school. And then like one of my family friends, or my uncle's best friend, was like, oh, like, why don't you learn how to use computers? I didn't touch a computer until after high school. You know what I mean? So that's just me. Like I didn't have a computer in high school. Like I
Yep.
went to typing class, but I fucking never owned one at home. You know what I mean? So it's like, and people were like, what, why not? Because I didn't like them. I still don't like them, to be honest. Like, but that's besides the point. Like, I just think everyone has their niche, and however your path is, don't compare your path to someone else. Just go on your own path, and whatever works for you, do it.
Yeah.
That's just my advice.
Yep. Well, that is totally can get on board with that.
Cool. So I guess if there's any more questions, we'll take one more, and then we'll call it a night. Any more? I don't see anything else. But no, not okay, cool. So obviously you guys know the deal. Like if you guys have any questions for Bailey or myself after this, if you guys someone watches this after the fact, throw it in the comments. Obviously, subscribe to our channel, show us some love, and connect to her on LinkedIn and wherever you can find her. So, any last words from you, B? Like,
Yeah, no, this has been great. It's always good to get on here and just talk candidly, and
mhm.
non-scripted just makes things flow much easier, and you get to interact with, what people actually want to talk about. So I love that.
All right. So we have one more question. What is the best? Oh, we already we already did that. Yeah, we already went that. Fuck that guy. All right. So thank you so much. I want to say thank you. And until next time, have an awesome day. And if you want to hit up, can you please hit up your friend Jennifer? I would love to have her on. Maybe I'll shoot
Yeah,
her a message, and she'll be cool to have on. So thank you so
yeah,
much, B, and
definitely.
I appreciate it. And until next time,
Thanks,
have a
Pat.
wonderful day.